Chapter 51. Thank you for making me smile again. Thank you for taking away my pain. Thanks for today. Thanks for this year. Thanks for being you, my dear. After the last lecture of the day, Jenny gathered her papers. It had been a tough term so far. She passed all the exams and all the assignments, but she had not received top marks on everything, something she had become accustomed to in elementary and high school. It was fortunate that her parents had given her a laptop. Without it, she would never have managed all her assignments. Agneta was also terribly busy. She had flunked one of her exams and would have to redo it, poor thing. Jenny slung the stuffed backpack over her shoulder and walked out of school. As she walked across the street, someone honked. She looked around. Why was someone honking at her? She had just crossed the street. There was a Porsche standing a few meters away. Someone inside of it waved. They must be honking and waving to someone else. She continued walking. Another honk. What? When she turned around, the car door opened. Keivan got out of it, with a big smile and a flower bouquet. She stared at him. He came up to her and kissed her on the cheek. Happy anniversary, honey. Her mouth looked like an O, but not a word came out of it. I've rented this for a special day. She still couldn't find any words. She hadn't even realized it was their anniversary today. They drove around town, drove along different roads and enjoyed the luxury of the car. There was a box of chocolate on the dashboard and Jenny munched piece after piece. They listened to music and talked and laughed. After driving around for a couple of hours, Keivan finally drove to a hotel. He parked and looked at her with a special look in his brown eyes. Have you booked us a room? She asked, still with a bit of chocolate in her mouth. He nodded with a big smile. A room for just you and me for the whole night. She laughed out loud. How can you afford all of this on your student budget? He shrugged. I've saved up for a long time. And since my family doesn't celebrate Christmas, I don't need to spend it on Christmas presents this month. She had never been in such a fancy hotel before. Whenever her family went on vacation, they would go camping or stay at hostels. When she and Keivan entered the lobby, she immediately felt out of place in her jeans and auntie-knitted sweater among all the well-dressed, middle-aged people. As soon as they got into their own room, her awkwardness disappeared. This was their own place for the night, a place where they could be themselves. She jumped on the bed like a little girl, looked in amazement at the small shampoo bottles and flicked through all the channels on the TV. At 8, they went down and had dinner in the restaurant. They shared a bottle of wine. Suddenly, Jenny asked, do you think this is what it's like? To be an adult, I mean? He laughed. Don't you think we are adults? She pondered a short while. No, I still live at home and you live in a room in a corridor with lots of other students. So we're not adults yet. So if we rent an apartment and move in together tomorrow, will we become adults then? He looked at her with eager anticipation. Jenny looked at him a long while, trying to figure out how serious he was. If we did that, I think we would risk aging terribly quickly, she said, as lightly as she could, and quickly changed the subject. Did you hear that Agneta flunked an exam? Yes, I heard. It's not uncommon. I also failed one in the first year. You did? Her eyes grew wide. Oh, Jenny, come on. You'll probably also need to redo some exams before you graduate. Of course I won't. Well, if not, the School of Journalism is ridiculously simple compared to the School of Economics or Chalmers. They continued bickering until they returned to their hotel room. As soon as they closed the door behind them, they stopped and looked at each other with a strange seriousness. Finally, they had their opportunity. They would not have to be quiet. The students in Keivan's corridor would not hear them, nor would Jenny's parents. They would not have to huddle into narrow single beds. The evening and night became filled with pleasure. They enjoyed the bathtub, the double bed, and each other. Jenny remembered what it had been like to make love with Peter. They had explored a land of pleasure every single time. Making love with Keivan was different. There were no new discoveries. They knew each other so well. Instead, it was soft, tender, and safe. Jenny enjoyed every minute of it. She noticed Kevan's awkwardness when they were suddenly stark naked in a fully lit room, hidden by nothing in this world. There had been no shyness or embarrassment with Peter. Jenny doubted he had ever felt awkward in his life. For Kevan, this was still unknown territory. He had to find a balance between the culture he was born into and the Swedish view of nudity as something natural and normal. He loved to look at every inch of Jenny's soft white body, but at the same time he felt as if he was breaking some unspoken rule, as if he were peeking into a promised but forbidden land. Jenny would have loved to jump around naked in the room and to make love in all sorts of places, on the floor, in the armchair, but when she saw his embarrassment, she stayed in bed while they held each other tight and made love to each other over and over again. The next morning they had sex one more time before they accepted that their wonderful night was really over. It was time to check out. They were alone in the elevator when they went down to the reception. In the mirror, Jenny saw that her hair was a mess. She pulled her hand through it before grabbing his hand and squeezing it. "Thanks for a great anniversary." "Thank you for a fantastic year." Kevan kissed her red, swollen lips.